Do my intro slide?
Um,
I can do it.
you can do it. And do you want people to be interactive and asking questions throughout, or hold their questions till the end?
Yeah, great question. We have a small group, so I think people should just chime in.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be too difficult. And the last time I did this, yeah, we had a lot of questions. People did interrupt a bit, and we'll see how in depth the questions are. It might make sense to hold some of them to the end. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm Gregory. I guess I've met some of you at Venture Mechanics, and I gave a version of this talk during Saddle Tech Week, and I'm proud to say that it was the number one most popular solo presenter talk at 600 people RSVP for the event. We had a packed house down at the AI house on the pier, which is a wonderful place to do a presentation. But for those who don't know me, I spent 20 years in Silicon Valley, always worked in high-tech startups since the 90s in New York City, where I grew up. Moved to San Francisco in 2004, which was a very contrarian thing to do for someone who loved New York and had grown up in New York. All my friends from New York told me I was very foolish to move to California, and that if the internet ever did amount to anything, that all of those companies would surely relocate to Manhattan. And I like to say that like I was vindicated beyond my wildest dreams. I remember when Macy's moved their headquarters to San Francisco, and I was like, "Wow, I really made a good bet on that one." So there's an
Gregory, when I
example.
when I
Yeah,
when I
go
told my friends I was moving to
ahead.
California in '84, the saying was, "Why would you want to move there? What isn't fruits and flakes is nuts."
I tell people like no one will believe me, but at that moment, people were trying to recruit me to work at Condé Nast. So I'm not even know if people knew who they are anymore. There was like I think they remain the largest magazine publisher in the world. They published Vogue, they published those magazines. They had just built a skyscraper in Manhattan at the time and
Mm.
had free food in a cafeteria that was designed by like I believe Rem Koolhaas, like a Dutch architect. It was like Google. Like people thought like working in magazines was a fantastic place to be. Obviously, that would have proved to have been a pretty poor decision on my part if I had chosen to do that. So yeah, I worked for a couple of notable companies I'll point out here. So InMobi was an early SoftBank recipient of a mega round of financing. They raised $250 million around 2010. Oh, and they were, which people on this call probably know, they were actually an iFund company. So Sequoia created the iFund to help fuel the iOS ecosystem. That was right when the iPhone was brand new, and they were funding applications and other types of people to help facilitate and grow the iOS ecosystem. And so we were one of the first mobile ad networks. And the company's actually from Asia, and so we're the first global mobile ad networks. And I got to travel all around the world. It was an excellent experience. I was at the age too where that sounded really attractive. Flying to India, flying to Hong Kong, and flying to London all within the same month was something that I liked doing back then. Not something I really want to do now. So InMobi was a huge success, and some engineers left and started a company called TapSense. That was another iOS acquisition platform, but we focused specifically on the iPhone. Had a great run there. I joined as the third employee. It was basically the only person without an engineering degree for a long time, and ran the entire business side, hired all the initial sales and marketing people, scaled it to 50 people. We got to $10 million run rate. There were some bumps along the way, but it was eventually sold to Wish.com, which I'm assuming most people are familiar with. If not, they're kind of like an early Temu. They were a Chinese e-commerce company. So after that, I worked for a couple of like notable startups in San Francisco. So AdRoll Next Roll is one that most people have heard of, and that was VP of marketing at Sojourn, which was I would call it a large tech company, a few hundred people, not a mega cap or a Mag 7 company, but large enough. Had a 30-person marketing team and did that for about 5 years. Then went fractional, and I've been doing work with early stage startups ever since. Moved to Seattle just over a year ago. Oh, and I just bought a house, so I am planning to stay here in Seattle. That was something that was up for discussion. My wife loves working at Amazon. She plans to stay there for a while, and so yeah, I will be here.
Congratulations. Where did you buy a house?
In like kind of Greenwood, Green Lake area. It's
Okay,
close to my brother.
cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. And so the way I structured this talk, um, is thinking about like how you want to scale from zero to $1 million in ARR, right? That's everybody's goal with a startup. And so I organize a lot of different tactics and put them into a way that I think would facilitate this conversation so that you have ideas for things when you're brand new and you're just getting started. There was a lot of people on the call who said they were like starting startups, they're really early, they're just, either working on their idea or about to launch the idea. And then we go into phase two where like, hey, you've got some revenue, you've got some traction. What does it look like to scale that? And then of course, like once you get to about $500,000 in ARR, you're off to the races and you really need to think about operationalizing what you do. I know, Ron, you were like very supportive of my statistics. So there's only about 10% of SaaS startups that ever reach $1 million in ARR. So it's not the easiest thing to do, although I put the odds of winning a Powerball. So from my perspective, like you've got a much better chance than winning the lottery at being successful with a startup. The other thing I always like to say is that like you definitely can take shots on goal, right? And so maybe the first one isn't a success, but if you over your career have a couple of successful startups, yeah, I think a very good chance of being successful at scaling to over $1 million. All right, so getting traction. So the first thing I always like to talk to people, and there are a few people on the call they think this feedback will be valuable for, is like aiming for a micro vertical. Um, so I've worked with lots of companies in Silicon Valley and startups around the world, and a lot of time they have a very generic focus, and that's why I put something like healthcare SaaS, which is like really broad. They could be selling to hospitals, they could be selling to doctors' offices, they could be B2C. They could be selling a mental health app. It's a really broad space, right? And so I encourage people to think like really narrowly about their business, at least in the beginning, and plotting out a path about how you can grow. A lot of time the conflicts around this and the discussion is usually like venture capitalists want me to chase after a big market, or I want to go after a big TAM, right? Which is an important consideration. And I think people should absolutely do that. So it just means that like you need to have a plan and a narrative to build a big business over the long term. But your go-to-market when you initially launch needs to be really constrained in an area that I think you can succeed in. And think about the way that you launch in this micro niche and where you go, that it would eventually expand to a much larger TAM or meet the requirements that you want in terms of like how big you want to scale a business. So in this example, I always point out that like, hey, if you're like a healthcare SaaS company and you start out as like scheduling for small dentists, like that's a really nice niche. You can grow that business in a lot of different directions, right? You could go into other healthcare verticals like dentists, chiropractors, other types of like small offices, or you could go upscale into an enterprise version that works for like larger offices, large business. There's different ways to scale it. And so example I always use is this one of Doximity. So they were positioned as a LinkedIn for doctors. And it's a public company. Like they were able to take like a fairly small niche in comparison to something like LinkedIn and build a really successful business around it. And some of the other things that they did to monetize, and I encourage people actually to like look in this company. It's quite interesting. They offered a lot of other services and were able to build products and businesses that would appeal to that demographic that well beyond the typical things you would imagine LinkedIn for doctors would offer, right? So there's definitely this aspect where there's networking and jobs and trying to like facilitate the ability for hospitals and healthcare organizations to hire the right professionals that they're looking for. But they, during the pandemic, released a lot of tools so that people could have online sessions with their doctor and a lot of other tools like that, right? So I think there's always ways to scale and grow the business and achieve your goals when it comes to like building a big business and like creating and going after a big TAM. But when you launch, you really want to be really narrow so that you can like get very focused on like your product development and of course your go to market and meet the needs of those people. So the other idea I like when you're focusing on your launch is to perhaps create some kind of VIP beta program. I'm working with a couple of founders right now who are doing similar types of ideas around this. Um, I think one of the attractive things that you can offer as the founder with a new company is that new users and early adopters can have access directly to you. I think that's something that they were looking for. They'll be excited about. Early adopters are people who are like want to be part of your mission and part of your goal, and they get excited about the vision and bringing them on that journey with you, I think is one of the things that is really appealing to them. So having a way to facilitate that, get that as to be something that they can be a part of is really important. I think Blue Sky did a really good job at this. Like, Jack Dorsey obviously has a really big reputation, but he did a great job at building out the VIP Veda beta program and getting people interested in Blue Sky. I remember when the invites to this were highly sought after, and I spent many hours on Twitter trying to get one. And I did finally get one and had a great time with the early users of Blue Sky.
Was that a slip of the tongue, or did you really use the term Veda?
Beta, sorry.
Oh, I thought you meant VIP beta is a Veda
Oh,
program.
that's a good idea though, right? We could patent that.
Yeah, I trademarked it first.
You can have that, Ron. Take that one. Run with that. Okay. I love it.
My trademark attorney is on the phone with us here on the line right now.
Yeah, right. We got him on the line, right? It's all recorded too. Okay. Use AI to get feedback on your ICP. So this is something I've been doing a lot with. I created some prompts for people. There's even like a link in the document where you can go and get it. So ChatGPT is actually quite good at assuming the persona of whatever that you ask it to, right? I'm sure everyone's experimented with this. Like, you're the greatest writer, or you're an awesome marketer, or you're Mark Twain, or you're Socrates, right? Like that stuff's really fun. But you can actually put the link to your website or landing page or your PDF or presentation, and you can ask it to evaluate it from the perspective of your target persona, right? And you can get really granular with this stuff. So you could have like multiple personas. So if we go back to the dental office example, you could talk about look at from the example of the owner, look at from the example of someone who works at the front desk and might be the end user of the software. Look at the example of other people in the industry who are influential and maybe don't own dental office, but are people that you want to reach out to and think might be able to help you promote your product. It was really interesting. Like, I did some experiments with this, and I was shocked actually at how good the feedback was. In fact, from the launch of my website, I incorporated all of the feedback that ChatGPT gave me, and I was really excited about it was ability to find some of the like blind spots and flaws like that I have, right? And I don't have a big team or work with a lot of people, so this is something I think for like founders, people who are like working solo, is a great way to get some impartial feedback. Oh, tell it things like be brutally honest, don't lie to me. Like, be sure to like really push ChatGPT to give you good feedback, and you'll be amazed that it actually responds to things like that. Become a subreddit authority. So this is going around the internet right now. Everyone is really excited about working on Reddit and using it to market their products. The challenge with Reddit is that there's some very specific things you need to know before you go off on there and get banned because you didn't follow the rules of any of the communities and stuff. And so what's actually not on this slide, but if you're new to Reddit, it has a karma system. So to create an account, you actually get points for engaging and participating in different types of activities. So commenting, liking, posting, all those things build up an actual number called karma. And you need a certain number of karma points in order to be able to participate in certain communities so that you're literally blocked from certain behaviors if you don't have enough karma. And because this is well known in the Reddit world, people will look at your karma number and instantly judge you. And so if you don't have a lot of karma, you're at much higher risk of getting banned for doing what they perceive as self-promotional types of behavior. And they're really strict. I got actually suspended from a forum. Like, I had a bunch of stuff go viral. I had this post do like 100,000 views. It's somewhere in some thread. I was like, I was probably on my phone. Someone asked about who I was. I said, oh, here's a link to my site. Check this out. And because I posted a link to my website, I got suspended from the community. They interpret it as self-promotion. So they were really, really strict. So when you go to Reddit and you build an account, the first thing you need to do is just participate, ask questions, build up the karma for your account. And the other really simple trick, just don't post links. The way to like really get value out of Reddit is through the direct messaging. So to go on there and you're participating, maybe you post something cool about what you're doing and people like it. You'll find that like the people are in the comments or however you're interacting with them, you could go to the direct message channel and you can have conversations that way. And I actually found some early customers and great people by doing that.
Is that where you should have posted your link that got you in trouble?
Yeah, that's what happened. So
Indirect.
there was a point when I first launched like 5 months ago, and I had a bunch of stuff go viral, and it was really exciting. And people are super mean. I didn't bring that up. Uh, Shockingly mean. I couldn't believe it. Like I really was like, am I gonna get swatted? Like, do I need to worry about this? And I had an account that's like basically my real persona, my real name. So like it's not difficult to figure out who I am. Like I just couldn't believe some of the things that people post on there. So just be aware of that. And my strategy for doing that is like either I just make fun of them or tell them that like something ironic and sarcastic, like if it's really, really mean and personal, I just say like, you must be just a fantastic person to have at a cocktail party. And the response is always like, they generally don't have anything to come back with that one for. Anyway, that's a whole different discussion. Yeah, I just responded. Like I had all these comments. I responded somewhere with a link to my site, like, oh, check this out. Here, this is who I am. And they just completely suspended me. Like I was shocked.
And so, but you could have DM'd that same information and not been in trouble.
Yes.
Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, and so the DMs are much more direct, like, hey, I'm interested in working with you, or I want to check out your SaaS website or something like that. And like, yeah, in the DMs you can totally engage. And it
Hmm.
seems like the bots or something haven't figured out the direct messaging system on Reddit. I don't get a lot of spam there.
Hmm.
All right, dominate industry Slack channels. This is like a similar idea, but like industry Slack channels are much more narrowly focused. A lot of the communities out there, you have to either pay or they're invite only. So a little bit of a friendlier conversation, perhaps, than what can happen on Reddit. And I've had some customers be really successful with this. There's a guy I was coaching who had a software platform that sold to large scale website applications, and it's very granular analytics that provides people the ability to understand exactly where the download speeds are struggling or lagging to improve the performance. And so he's an incredible JavaScript programmer, and so he's on this JavaScript community, and he was showing me like what he was doing on there, and he just like reached out to the people who run the community because they were doing some online webinar similar to this, and got himself a place on the webinar, was able to like present what he's doing to the entire community. So I don't know how much people are participating at some of these private communities, but a lot of really valuable conversations that used to be more public have moved over to Slack. So I would like seek these out if you're not a member, pay for some of them too to get a sense of like what the community is like and what the value could be. They're not, generally not very expensive, maybe 50 bucks a month or something like that. And I have other people who swear by this. I'm not so into it. I find Slack to be really overwhelming. I'm on a million workspaces and stuff. And so I spend a lot more time on social media, on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So I'm plenty busy with all of that, but I have some people who like they pretty much put all of their effort and energy into this and it works great for them. So hyper-personalized outreach, I think this is getting more popular, and I hear more people talking about this. But I think, like in our example of early stage founder, you're working on your idea, you maybe put something out there, you've got some feedback from Chat GPT, you're excited about what you're doing, you're on Reddit, you're trying to like get traction. What I usually recommend if you're at that stage is to build a prospect list of like 50 people who you think would be the ideal fit for your product. So research them pretty well. put together that list, and then do cold outreach to them and create perhaps like a video that you can send them that is either like demoing the product specifically for them, or it's just a custom demo that demonstrates the value that you could bring, however you want to do it. It depends on your product. The other idea I had recently is that to do this, you could record one and then you could use a deep fake tool to actually customize your own video for all of the prospects. And so I've seen a few people doing this, but it's an easy way to just record it once, and then you can just edit the script essentially and personalize it for the people that you're trying to reach out to.
Hmm.
So referral-based weight system, similar to like the Blue Sky idea, but I'm sure most people on this call remember when Clubhouse launched, and they did a fantastic job at like not just building up all this enthusiasm and excitement to get on Clubhouse, but they had a rather complex referral system where like if you got an invite, you could give invites to other people. They kind of gamified the whole thing. In retrospect, I kind of think Clubhouse's product was like the most incredible launch I've ever seen. Just the timing, the interest, that weekend that it went live, it was just wild to like be a part of all of that. There's even tools out there now that can help you do some of this if you need to like gamify the invites to your product. It obviously works for only certain types of products. A social network is an excellent example. But I have seen things like this work for B2B products as well. You maybe not going to get the same volume that you would with something like Clubhouse, but something that can be give people social credibility by inviting their friends are always fun, and they typically attract early adopters, which is who, for the most part, you're looking for at this stage. All right, so those are like the ideas and tactics that you can use when you're really early stage and you're thinking about launching your company. And so the next section is tactics that assume you maybe have revenue, you have some kind of product market fit, and now you're looking to like grow the revenue base and find more people who want to use your product. So virtual office hours. So this one assumes like you've got some audience, you've got some people, you've got some interest in like what you're doing, and you can have sessions and invite people and have them invite other people, and they can just talk about their issues or what they're doing in the platform. So I have a guy who created it's a vibe coding tool that creates product documentation and PRDs. It's really cool. So you just like put in some prompts and it generates all of the materials you need, user stories. It creates technical documentation. It's excellent. It's a great product and a great example of something where this works, right? So people are in there and it's complicated and they have a lot of questions and they're trying to get the output that they want. So having like a weekly office hours sessions where people can show up and be like, hey, I tried this, it didn't work. What can I do here? How do you recommend do that? Is excellent. And it also incorporates my other idea from the first section about like one-to-one founder conversations and how people really like that, particularly early adopters. So I was doing this in the beginning when I launched Vibe Your SaaS, and we had our own X space with my friend here, Paul, and our X space became so popular that we turned it into a Friday live stream and YouTube channel, right? So the nice thing about this idea too is like if you get traction, you can scale it into content and use it to market your startup across multiple channels. So a podcast tour, this is something I did during the pandemic. I just was like on any podcast that would have me. It was really fun. I had a lot of great conversations with people, and then was able to take all of that stuff and like use it for content, put it up on like TikTok, which I experimented with. Um, there's websites like this, Podcast Index, where you can like look up podcasts that perhaps you might want to be on. What I usually tell people is that uh, there's more podcasts out there than there probably are guests. And so if you spend some time researching this, you should be able to find like a lot of podcasts that you can participate in, right? And then that saves you from the like doing the hard work of like creating your own podcast, which is what I think a lot of people tried to do during the pandemic, and there was just a glut of podcasts. So I think for most people, participating and being on other podcasts is a more scalable, more cost-effective way to manage this. And one is not enough. Like you need to be on a lot. That's why I always aim really high. Like go for 15, go for 20. Like think really big about this. I think I got to 10 when I did this podcast tour. And then I kind of did a similar thing when I moved here to Seattle. Like I sought out places where I could go and speak and present and talk to people. And I've been to like all the different incubators in town, presented during Seattle Tech Week, doing some stuff with the AI collective. So you can take this idea too. And now that I feel like everything's back to normal and we're not so focused on the virtual world, like this idea obviously applies to real world and in-person events. So powered by widgets, these are excellent. I was a big fan of this Chat GPT one that they created pretty early on. And so it would transform all your Chrome, Google searches into Chat GPT searches. And I used it originally because like I thought this would be a great way to like force myself to learn how to use Chat GPT. And so I remember in the beginning actually was quite challenging. Like I was not aware of how familiar I had become with Google and how it works. And so switching to something was a really interesting exercise. So I definitely recommend it. But powered by widgets, depending on what you're trying to do, can be really effective. I mean, there's whole businesses that are able to like put all of their value into a plugin, right? I think that Honey was a company that was entirely a plugin based system. So sidecar apps and other apps that augment your main app is a really interesting trend right now. And because it's so easy to create this stuff, I think you're going to see a lot more people creating plugins or doing interesting ways to kind of interact or extend their value prop to other channels like Chrome. I was at that windsurf vibe coding event they did like a couple of weeks ago, and there were all kinds of people were making plugins. Like it's kind of built into the system. It's really interesting. So for people on the call, like this is not something that is difficult to do. You can like make a plugin pretty easily. And so I definitely think people should explore it. So go super hard in cold email. This is like the classic technical founder approach. If you go on like Reddit/SaaS or any of those communities, you'll see just tons and tons of guys talking about this, how they just went super hard on cold email and sent out like 100 million emails or 50 million emails, some crazy number, and it worked. I think that's what people, maybe don't understand or are worried about with like cold email is like they are afraid that they're not going to get a response, and it's gotten a lot harder. But if you do enough of it, uh, it does work, right? And so there's lots of ways to build lists to do this, right? You can go into Sales Navigator. I'm sure everyone is familiar with that to get the list. And then to do the cold email now, it's actually quite complicated technically. So if you think that this would work for you, I would either like go and find a vendor or someone who can help you. I don't want to go into too many of the details of this call about how it's done, but you can't just do it from your Gmail account. If you send out too many unsolicited emails, it'll start to like lower your rating in Google, and eventually like your emails won't get through to anyone. So one simple solution for that is go and buy a different domain and then buy a workspace from Google and use mail merge and send emails that way. So I can talk more about that technically if people are interested in it. But cold email still works, and the thing about cold email is it's free. All right. So guerrilla marketing. This is one of my favorite ones. I did a lot of events for TapSense. We marketed to developers, app developers, engineers, technical people who I like to say are like allergic to most traditional marketing. And so what we found was like meetups and events was a great way to connect with this audience. And so there was a conference that we had sponsored, and we bought the seat drop. And so what that was like when everyone went to sit down for the keynote speaker, there was a printout that we had paid for and promoted us. We had a QR code so that people could, book a call or book a meeting with us. And like this thing was so successful for us. Like we had meetings until midnight that night because everybody at the conference was interested in working with us. So it was like the peak of like interest in iOS apps. It was very hard to market them at the time. Like Facebook's app download product wasn't available. So we got the timing correct, but we also got the segmentation and the marketing correct. We were really clear about like who we thought the value proposition would work for and found like unique ways to target them that was cost effective. So the other thing I always tell to people about this particular idea is that generally, if you look at like a conference menu of sponsorships, you don't see this one. And so you can ask for it. I think at this one, I think I asked for this too. I don't think this is typically something that they sold. But the cool part about that is like they all want to make additional revenue. So the people that run the conferences and sell the sponsorships, they love it when you come to them with unique ideas that are not part of the normal package that they're selling because they can go to their boss or their company or whoever they report to and be like, hey, not only did I like exceed or meet all my revenue goals, I'm actually like creating new sponsorship ideas that will bring in additional revenue. And so you can usually get a really good deal on this. I think we got it for like $2,000, where like a lot of the other stuff usually would start at like five or $10,000. Public teardown. So this one was really popular a couple of years ago with this company called Slidebean. They were just a design firm that created presentations for people, and they got into creating investor presentations. And what I love about this is like the logic is very obvious, right? So they're trying to market this. They're doing these investor presentations, and they stumble upon the idea that like they could just redesign famous ones and make them like look really cool, and they'd be easy to market. So they started doing like these teardowns of Airbnb's deck and Facebook's original deck, and they did every major one that you've ever heard of, right? And so you can go to their archive, and they're very clear about like how they improved the design and what they did to like make it better and all of the logic behind how they would improve stuff. It's maybe one of the best examples I've ever seen of somebody using like this teardown concept of like doing case studies of other people's work or just things that are in the public domain and showing how you could make a huge improvement to what's out there and what's been done in the past. All right, so now we're on to the half a million to $1 million in ARR. Let me just pause here for a second and say like, any questions, any feedback? Does my hair look good? Like, how's everyone doing?
Going strong.
Thumbs up. All right, we'll keep going then. So develop targeted multi-channel outreach. This stage is where you have product market fit, you've done your clever launch, you've got the clubhouse enthusiasm behind your product, you're now scaling and sponsoring trade shows and having meetings going till midnight, but you need to really reach the big goal, right? You want to get to $1 million in ARR. So how are you going to do that? So what you need to do is like layer on more features and functionality or more ideas and more strategies on top of what you're already doing. So we talked about like doing cold outreach either through email or creating videos and deepfakes and all of that. So we need to use expand that and do it through a multi-channel sequence. So multi-channel sequence is just basically like how most SaaS sales is done today. Like if you go into an application like Apollo or any of those tools that sales teams use, and they set up sequences that are multi-channel, which means that like they send out an email and then they send out a LinkedIn in-mail request. Maybe they send or call them and leave a voicemail. They do multi-channel outreach. Right? It's very obvious. The thing that's great about this is like you can continue the narrative across different channels, or you can coordinate it and stuff. I've talked to some salespeople who are like very aggressive. They're like, I send an email, I send an in-mail on LinkedIn, and then I leave them a voicemail at the same time that says like, did you get my in-mail or did you get my email, right? And so multi-channel outreach, if you're like at this stage, is something I recommend you do with like maybe 100 perfect fit founders. So go a little bit larger and broader than like the 50 we talked about before. and customize the narrative across different channels, right? And you don't have to be as aggressive as that, although like if it works for you, yeah, you should definitely go for it. But I think at this stage, what you need to really figure out is like, are these people a great fit? And like, how can you put together a narrative that really articulates your value prop and solves their, hair on fire uh, problem? And that's how you'll get a response. I've had a lot of success with this. Like, ultimately for me, this comes down to like people don't see all the messaging that you send. Like even though you see it and you understand it and you're maybe bored of it because you do it all the time, they're just like getting bombarded with stuff all the time, right? So they like maybe saw that LinkedIn message, maybe not. They maybe saw the next one you send. They maybe saw the email. They maybe checked their voicemail. But the idea is to like just kind of like get them from as many angles as you can so you can get a response. Create content collaboration pods, right? So this is like partnering with different people, putting together a pod, putting together a group that you guys can all do marketing together, do cross promotions. I like the idea too of perhaps cross promoting with products that aren't in the same vertical or category. Maybe they're even something completely tangential to what you do. So I love this example of the Android launch. They had a partnership with KitKat, and so they named these all after candy. And I think they had other partnerships too, but I know I love Kit Kats. And so I thought this was like a really excellent idea. And they named the release Kit Kat, which was like super cool. I think we even copied this and we named all of our software releases after different types of espresso drinks at TapSense because I loved espresso. So we did cappuccino, then we did latte, and then we did a little updates. We called it espresso. We got like really into this kind of theme because it's kind of fun.
Here's to
So
you,
yeah,
Greg.
yeah, thank you
I'm,
so much.
as I'm drinking my espresso.
So I think this is a great idea. In fact, like I want to do this at Monorail Coffee. If anyone knows anyone at Monorail, I'd love for them to like work with me and we'll figure out some kind of fun strategy. The other idea you could do with this is like it doesn't have to necessarily be monetary. And maybe that's the most important part here is that these partnerships a lot of time are like joint marketing ventures where there's just requirements in terms of like deliverables. Like we'll do this event, we'll do this blog post, we'll do these tweets, and both parties agree to that, but no actual money changes hands. I think people are usually surprised to learn that that's how a lot of these big partnerships work with like really big companies. So it's actually the marketing team that's driving these things and are like, hey, KitKat, like, would it be cool to be part of what we're doing? And the people at KitKat are like, we'll do anything to be associated with Android and Google. This is a really great opportunity for us. And then internally at KitKat, they're like, oh my God, you mean we wouldn't have to pay for this? Like, we don't need to include this in our media budget. So for them, it's a huge value add.
So, Greg, obviously, big business likes to do business with big business,
Yeah.
and small business likes to help other small business. So, I do want to interject a opportunity here that we are starting a series in our podcast studio of interviewing mentors, as you know, interviewing investors and interviewing founders. And during events like Founder Monster Meetup Day and Venture Saturday, Chris Hines is going around catching people cameo. Hey, you want to go into the studio and talk about your startup a little bit? But otherwise, we're doing scheduled ones and we're doing with the staff here as hosts. But if any of you startups want to get some exposure, you get a piece of content that both we can use and you can use. We do have this podcast studio that doesn't get enough usage here, so we decided to just turn on that program yesterday.
There you go. The podcast tour.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. The last thing I was saying is like, so at Amobi, I actually did this with a bunch of startups. So Box was just going public at the time. And I don't know how I like stumbled into those guys. And then they thought we were cool. And so we put together this like joint partnership thing when Amobi was pretty early. And we did a bunch of events and a bunch of stuff. It's funny because my boss came to me and we were at the Giants game in San Francisco and he sees the like Box logo is on the stadium and he's like, those guys are really big. And I was like, yeah, that's why we want to have a partnership with them, right? So I think this thing is like a great idea and like don't limit your thinking like to trying to only go after like small brands. Like you'd be surprised actually that you can find really large companies who are interested in doing these types of things. So All right, influencer marketing. I think everyone understands this at a high level. And so what I recommend for like B2B or like small companies is like focus on micro influencers, which there's a couple of different definitions out there, but the one I like to use is that they have over 1,000 followers, right? And so getting micro influencers to be people that you can collaborate with, I think is a tried and true strategy these days. And I included this idea like that T app, the one that, had the big security violation recently. I was looking into it and I wanted to understand like how did this thing scale so quickly? And so what they had done was actually brought on this woman as like their kind of chief content creation officer who had a massive following and gave out dating advice. And so it was a very obvious fit for their product. And you're starting to see this all over the place, right? In fact, like my prediction is that in like 3 to 5 years, it's probably going to be a requirement to have a founding chief creative influencer as part of the company. Because I think marketing is going to get so difficult and so expensive, particularly as you start to scale, like at this stage, that that's going to be one of the only ways that startups can do it. And I think it's going to happen in B2B as well. There's a lot of B2B influencers out there now. People are building big audiences on LinkedIn, and it's harder and harder to build those audiences. And if you look at any of the metrics, I can go a lot of detail on this, but like some of these newsletters, like the Lenny newsletter, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Those things have more marketing value than like a big advertising campaign on LinkedIn. Like you can measurably prove it that some of these influencer newsletters or podcasts are way, way more valuable than if you were to spend like $100,000 on LinkedIn. Pop-up product experiences. This is one of my favorite ideas. I love this example from Square. And so I first saw this at a trade show years ago when they had just launched. And what they did was force everybody to pay $1 to get one of their t-shirts. And so they made a product demo as part of their kind of trade show experience, which I thought was just brilliant. I remember everyone at the trade show came to me and was like, hey, I just bought this t-shirt for $1, right? So if you could figure out a way to do that with your product, I think like it's really hard to beat. And it's a great way to make trade shows really interesting. So I think trade shows tend to be like a lot of the same stuff. They can be kind of boring if you do a lot of them on either side, either the vendor or the customer. It's sometimes can be a really like lame experience. So this was a really great example. You could do simpler things, right? Like just do a product demo or have something available so people can interact with your product. Of course, this one is genius because like it was very specific to the value prop of their product that you could do it on the iPhone, right? Which at the time was really difficult to do. You didn't have like a portable wireless device that could process credit cards. Partnering on co-marketed webinars. That's what we're doing today. This is a tried and true strategy. I'm sure everyone on this call has probably done this, but it still works and still something that you can easily do, particularly as you get bigger and you need things that you can do on an ongoing basis. This is something that you can do every month, right? Which is why I included it in this presentation. So maybe not as clever and as interesting as some of the other ideas, but this is like a workhorse that you can do repeatedly over and over, and you can get a team behind, and you can have real consistency in your marketing and your delivery on like lead generation. So the last idea, of course, was an advertising one. I challenged myself to like not put any advertising ideas in here. And someone asked me recently at an event too, like, what I recommend for early stage companies and what do you look for when it comes to like their marketing. And what I tell people today is that your strategy cannot be you're going to run ads. That can't be how you're going to like scale your business. Advertising is really expensive, really difficult to get great at it. You'll need a big team with a lot of software. But there are some things that work even for small companies at a small scale. And so the targeting on like LinkedIn, I don't know if anyone has tried this, is really good. So I ran a campaign where we were just trying to target people who are executives at airlines, and I just used the very straightforward built-in targeting for the airline vertical. And lo and behold, I was able to get a lot of impressions with senior executives at American and JetBlue and like really well-known airlines. And it was considered like a real success internally because we were like pitching all of them. We got some meetings and we did really well, right? We had Delta as a customer, so we had great content that obviously would appeal to them. That part is really important. But you could take like any of the lead lists or things you've created from other ideas in here, like maybe a bunch of people came to your events, you have all of their emails. LinkedIn will allow you to upload that list and then target those people. So you could do like really constrained advertising targeting on most platforms, not just LinkedIn, based on lists that you've built and have collected from people that you have knowledge of or have interacted with your brand. And you're sure to get a much higher conversion rate than if you just did some really generic and general targeting. The challenge is that it's really constrained and really, really small. So like if you only have 100 to 200 or 1,000 people, showing them ads is just going to take a lot of time because like there's a lot of other people in the queue that want to show ads, and then the people perhaps aren't spending as much time on the platform as you would like. So I can go into more detail on this too, but like it can be a great way to help uh, um, facilitate and strengthen some of the other marketing things you're doing. So another really good tactical example of this, let's take our dental SaaS platform. Let's say they do a regional strategy where like they launch in certain areas like Miami and San Francisco and Las Vegas. You could do constrained advertising to like dental offices within those areas and it'd be like relatively low cost. And I've seen people have a lot of success with that as a way to kind of like give air cover and help facilitate direct sales and generate more awareness for the product for the product in that area. And oh, last one. So like, how do you apply this? So there's a ton of stuff in here, and so what I always recommend people do is like first like think really deeply about obviously the stage of your business and your audience and what you think would work, and then just pick two or three that will align with what you're trying to do and perhaps like what skills you have and what you're good at, right? Like some people are excellent at events. My wife hates events, doesn't like to do any event marketing at all, so not a good fit for her. If you're fantastic with social media, maybe that's an area that you could focus on. If you are really into social media and you're chatting with influencers and spend a lot of time on there, like maybe you could go that route, right? That's why I know a lot of developers and technical people focus on cold email because they're really good at it and they can figure out how to put together all the tools and software required to string together a bunch of accounts and overcome a lot of the barriers with delivering stuff because they're fantastic technical people. And that's it. And so, of course, yeah, I'm a micro fractional CMO. I coach early stage founders on their marketing. Questions?
Don't all start at once.
No questions.
No questions?
I
I
have a
guess.
question. Sorry.
No, go for it, please.
No, you go ahead then. I didn't mean to interrupt somebody.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask about like you mentioned about micro verticals and everything earlier
Uh-huh.
on. And I think that's something I really struggle with personally is like I'm like, oh man, it can do everything and anything and it's everything should be abstracted at all times kind of a thing. And so like how do you go about like choosing that micro vertical, whatever? Because I feel like that's the part I'm always overthinking.
Yeah, you have a tool that's it's a pretty technical tool and it's really general in terms of like what it can do. Like it could do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Is it only for technical people?
No, so it's supposed to be, so the way it is, it's like a low code
Hmm.
enterprise app thing. And so like what I can build on top of that is like a bunch of apps on that platform, which is like powered by my thing. So like, hey, like it'll triage your email inbox for you. Great. But like it's kind of like how do I pick that right thing or whatever? Like what like
Yeah,
or
yeah.
am I
Well,
overthinking it? I'm probably overthinking
well, the first
it.
thing I was going to say was like, for you, it's not technical, but I think for other people, it probably is. And so I would like start with that as the premise is like, who are the people that are going to get the most value out of it? And so my guess, I'm just guessing,
Yeah.
is like people that are doing technical things today are the ones who see that it's more efficient to do it with your tool, right? Because they
Yeah.
understand how it's done, right? Or someone who's non-technical at like the dental office assistant is just doesn't like spend a lot of time like vibe coding things, right? So they're just not going to really understand the
Mm-hmm.
value prop. That's why I would like start with people who are like understand the pain. Like they're doing it this way, like ouch, that's really painful. Boom, I have the solution. So I think you can already constrain it right there that like there are people in certain technical roles, right? And
Yeah.
then the other thing I would suggest is like uh it's probably not for like a large enterprise, at least at this stage, because there's a lot of security requirements and uptime and all kinds of things that they require. And so I typically don't recommend like startups in general target that because there's just a
Uh-huh.
lot of other like things that they like legal or other type of things that they need outside of like the technical requirements. And so I've actually done it. I've seen it. I've launched enterprise B2B software, so it can be done. It just means it's
You need
generally
all the like weird compliance stuff and everything. So like I was working on one thing and they were like, we need like your SOC 2 compliance. And I was like, okay, well, that'll be 3 months. Talk to you later.
yeah, exactly, right? So that's why I would just focus on the people who are like the low-hanging fruit that are like it could use this pretty quickly. So other startups, solo preneurs, that I would start there. But I think you have a really interesting ability to scale way up, right? And you could eventually go after enterprise, not a problem. I mean, Stripe started like this, right? Like they were just
Yes.
a developer tool that other people, Y Combinator, used, and they thought it was easy, but I'm sure in the beginning it wasn't for the average person.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
no problem.
Greg, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. It's great content. Um, so I really like the idea of choosing 2 to 3 of these. How do you think about measurement? So how do you, okay, I'm going to choose these 2 to 3. I think these are the best, but how do you think about setting a goal and what is good? And yes, I should keep going, which is what is not so good. I should move away from this channel and perhaps try another. How do you rationalize that when you start out something like this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, what is your business or what is your idea?
We're working on an app that helps parents understand how to interact with their children much better. Uh, Often parents are really frustrated, they don't know what to do, and they often employ just what they've advice they've got from their parents. And so we basically provide a way that you can describe the child, describe the personality of the child, describe your parenting style, and seek advice. And the app comes back and says, okay, try this, this, and this in these particular situations to alleviate that stress. And eventually the emotional payoff is parents feel better because they have better interactions with their kids.
Yeah. So I guess okay, I get a good sense of that. So then I think the simple answer is like you need to find marketing, a marketing approach that will facilitate and accelerate what already works. So like when you're really early, like you have some way that people are finding the app, hopefully, right? If you don't, then that's a different challenge. But just focus on like the most immediate short-term goals, right? It's like I have 10 parents, I need to get to 20 parents. And so for you at the beginning, that might not be digital at all, right? I think most people come in and say like, hey, wrote a bunch of ads, download a bunch of like apps, like spend $1 million, like put in a multi-touch attribution tool, all this stuff, right? But if you only have like 10 people, you need to get to 20, maybe just have a party with the 10 people or 5 people who are using it who invite 5 of their friends and get them all to like do it in person and you literally help them
Mm.
get it on their phone, right? That is literally what Stripe did to get like the first 100 customers, I believe. They actually installed it on everyone's thing. It like wasn't very robust. They had no docs, they had nothing, right? So I think in the early stage, you need to be really flexible and like innovative with your thinking and your approach and really aggressive, like aggressive in the sense that like you just go and help them get it set up. I don't think that like advertising or something would work at this stage because there's no awareness, there's nothing, right? Like you just see
Yeah.
a random ad on a phone and you're like, who is this? Why would I trust this? I have no idea who they are. I look it up. I don't find any like Wall Street Journal articles that cover these guys. Like, who are they, right? So you have to get over this leap or this hurdle of like, there isn't a lot of awareness, so there's not a lot of confidence about it in general. But like you are confident, and like if you could introduce people to people already using it, particularly like in the parent world, I think that is what would work. But obviously, that's not a scalable strategy like long term, right? So you're in like the first category of like the 0 to $500,000, right? Where you just got to like find every possible way, every mechanism you can to just get one user at a time.
Okay, thank you.
Charles,
Any
you
other?
look like you're in witness protection over there.
Yeah, you're
I
very
like it.
dark
He's doing the
with a
legal
bright
app, right?
background.
Yeah, so
Yeah, he's all about what do you call it when you what's your when you're blocking out documents?
Oh.
I'm forgetting the term, Charles.
Redaction.
Redaction. He's all about redaction. So he's currently redacted. You got a bright light behind you and a dark silhouette of a face. So
There you go. Yeah. Sorry.
Funny.
No, it was a great presentation. I got a lot out of this, and probably need to get a hold of Gregory and use his services sometime soon.
Thank you.
I had one last
Welcome.
question, if we have
Yeah.
time. I was particularly wondering about the cold emailing, and you said you could elaborate a little bit on the different kind of platforms and methods. Also, somebody in the comments said that they use something called Lucia and Instantly. So if you're familiar with those, maybe elaborate a little
Yeah,
bit.
there's a bunch of tools out there. So the concept is like they string together like a bunch of Gmail accounts that they set up for free. And so to do that, there's a whole bunch of things you need to do to get them to work. So if you just go and open up like 10 Gmail accounts and they're sending hundreds of emails, you'll get flagged as spam right away and the accounts will get shut down. So there's tools that help you do all of this. And there's a bunch of technical things you need to be able to like manage to get it to work. So there's literally like Smartly. There's other ones where like it helps you create all of those accounts. And generally what people do is like they buy a bunch of URLs that are related to your domain, but not your domain. So it doesn't hurt the like sending authority of your existing domain, right? So what is the name of your company?
Dropflip.
Drop what?
Dropflip. It's in my
Dropflip.
name.
Yeah, so people go and buy like get Dropflip or Dropflip it or Dropflip me and drop. They buy like all these related ones, and then you set up all of the email accounts under those URLs. Yeah, there's whole systems and tools and people out there that will do this for you. But that's the concept, right? Is that you put all this stuff in place. And so that's why I said like there's two ways to do this. Like you can just go to a team or a group of people who are good at this because there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. Or if you're really technical and want to do it, you could do it on your own, right? And spend all the time like buying all the URLs, like setting up all the email accounts and string them all together and getting the software linked and then building all the stuff, right? So there's two options. This was a good one where like I think it depends on your skill set. Like it's something I haven't done myself. I just think it's like a lot of work. And so I work with other people, or I just do it at a much smaller scale. Like I don't send hundreds of emails a day. I do have automation that will send like up to like 15 or 20 a day from my own email, and that works, and I haven't had any issues with that.
That's great. Thank you. Also, thank you,
Yep.
Amelia, for responding in the comments. I saw that.
Amelia, are you a email cold outreach expert?
I just recently set this up for our company.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and one of my friends, like they showed me kind of like a bunch of different tools that you can use for doing this. So I was introduced to like Instantly and Lucia specifically. So that's what I've had experience in. But yeah, what like to your point earlier about not using your own domain, definitely don't do that right off the bat, because then it can get, shut down like you were saying, and instantly lets you buy like pre-warmed up domains. So or you can like buy new ones and it'll warm it up for you. But that's a really important component whenever you start doing this is like make sure that it's sufficiently warmed up first.
Yeah, it's like a whole gray market of like warmed up domains and warmed up accounts and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Is it working for you guys? Like, are you seeing success with it?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of really good success, and I do cold outreach email and cold outreach through LinkedIn. And I don't automate the LinkedIn side of it. I actually do that manually right now, and then I automate the email side of it.
Yeah, I think people are surprised to hear this that like cold email outreach still actually works. It's just that it takes a lot of effort. And so I think a lot of the tools that people were using in the past don't work anymore because like if you're sending it from your own domain, it just will get flagged as spam right away and they're not getting through.
It depends on what you're putting into the email as well. Like if people sense that it's been AI generated at all, like they will not respond to you. So I just like I'll throw in a few typos, like don't use M dashes. Make sure it sounds like it's coming from a human and like people will respond to you.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic. Yeah. Ron, do you want to say something?
Yeah, well, yeah, we were talking about this the other day. I am appalled by how much I'm getting in LinkedIn and in emails that is just horribly done AI. It looks at my bio, picks a couple of things out of it that are completely irrelevant, says, "Oh, you've done an incredible job with this, and congratulations to you, blah, blah, blah. Here's my services." And I just delete it immediately. Like it's obviously some mass compilation that AI has looked at my LinkedIn or something and decided this is who you are. It's so poorly done.
Yeah, yeah. I have a whole so two things. Like one, I basically tell everyone that like, look, automate everything except the content. Like I think that's the simple answer here, and that's what I tell everybody is like, I think people got all excited about auto generating the content. I think that that's where these things go wrong. They're great at like automating the outreach piece or the response or something like that, but just create the content yourself. And the other thing that like people don't read anything anymore. So you don't need a lot of content, particularly like with cold outreach or like LinkedIn, whatever you're doing. Like don't send people these term papers and stuff. That was the AI tool I saw was like, it's exactly that. It would go through like they were explaining to me to the point my head was gonna explode. I'm like, I don't know why you think this would be a good idea to write like a 3-page email that like cites everything from your bio and all that stuff. Like it's kind of ridiculous. I like to joke that like ultimately I think it comes down to this big disconnect that a lot of founders have, which is like everyone's excited about AI generated email outreach, but no one's excited about reading AI generated outreach, right? So I think if you like think about like the experience that you enjoy and try to like target that, you're going to have just a lot more success in general with this stuff.
All right. Are we all good? Everybody got their questions in?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're a little past time, but we started a little late. So, Greg, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. And there are a bunch of people that for some reason couldn't make it today, but I'm going to send the video to all of them as I get it back here. And if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, please do. So, actually, I can send it through Luma. Everybody else, you should be able to get it through that.
Awesome.
Okie doke. All right, everybody have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Bye-bye.
job.
Go marketing. Go marketing.